I'd like to start off by welcoming you to the Natural Health orientation for Corrective Chiropractic. Sorry you couldn't be here to join us today, but we wanted to take some time to be able to go over this with you so that way you understand exactly what you can do to get the best amount of care in the quickest amount of time possible. And as you've already realized, there is definitely a level of service that we want to provide for you in order for you to get the best results so you can potentially live your healthiest life ever. The opening slide is a picture that I took when I went on a recent vacation in 2009 to Victoria, Canada. And while we were there, we went on this orca whale watching tour. And on the orca whale watching tour, you're in the middle of the mountains. There's this beautiful crystal clear water. There's seals swimming all around you. And all of a sudden, we pull up to these pods of orcas. And I asked the guide, I said, raise my hand, and there's 12 people on the boat. We were in this small little raft. And I asked him, how long does an orca whale live in the wild? Well, the response was about 70 years. And then I asked him about how long does one live in captivity? His response following that was only 20 years. And I raised my hand in curiosity again, and I asked him, I said, John, this is more of a statement than a question, but these orcas that live in the wild, and the ones that live in captivity, it's really no different when we look at humans. Humans that live lives of acting as wild animals tend to live the longest versus ones that live a life of captivity. If you took a human being and you stick them in front of a cubicle all day where they're not getting any movement, you start feeding them food that's not congruent to their DNA and their genetics, then you start decreasing the amount of exercise that they're able to achieve. And then because they're working so much, they're not able to spend quality time with their family, friends, and everybody else. Well, it's very similar to these orca whales that get taken out of the wild and put into captivity, that get thrown into these small little pools. They're taken away from their families and their friends. They're eating fish that's not even alive anymore, that they can't even chase and exercise to go after. And of course their bodies being put under a massive amount of stress hormones. And the reason why I start off with this is because as humans, we really need to start thinking as if we're wild animals, not going out there and hunting our food, but the way we live our life, the food that we eat, the way that we work out, the way that we live our social circles. That's why I wanted to start with this, so that way we can actually get started with understanding a new concept and a new way of thinking. And as you come through our office, you're going to start seeing a lot of these different concepts as they play out, because our ultimate goal is to help you live an optimal life. Now, let's get started with some of the nuts and bolts. So if you were to go to a traditional chiropractor out there, and there's nothing wrong with this, here's what you may expect. Getting them to decrease your muscle spasms, getting your range of motion to improve, and also getting rid of your pain. So primarily, they're doing what any typical doctor would do, which would be treating the symptoms. Well, we're considered structural chiropractors, and which is why we named the practice Corrective Chiropractic. And in the office, what you can really expect from us is to get to the root cause of the problem. As you may have noticed, the first visit was very intense and it was very thorough. And the reason we did that is so we can actually figure out the cause for why your body is going through a lot of the symptoms that it's experiencing. The nervous system coordinates and controls every cell, tissue, organ system in the body. So if we can figure out exactly how it's working, then all we need to do is get in there, make some corrections, and let the body express itself at its truest potential. There's the primary, and then there's always a secondary. And when you're thinking of any health condition, you always want to think in terms of primaries versus secondaries. Here's what I mean. Secondary conditions: neck and back pain, sciatica and hip pain, numbness and tingling, muscle spasms, headaches, migraines, pinched nerves, herniated discs, rotator cuff and shoulder pain, degenerative discs, poor posture, the granny's hump, which makes people look like Quasimodo, which is very common in today's world, dizziness, vertigo, and carpal tunnel. Now, these are a lot of secondary conditions. The reason they're secondary is because there's a primary, there's a cause to these effects. So for an example, if we took high cholesterol, that would be an effect due to a poor lifestyle, which would be the primary problem. If we took high blood pressure, that would be a secondary condition based on maybe lack of exercise or increased stress in the body. Same thing if we took high blood sugar levels. Well, the problem is not diabetes. The problem is this person's putting too much sugar into their body and not allowing insulin to pull the sugar into the bloodstream, so eventually they're going to get diagnosed with diabetes. When we look at our health in our life, we have to always look at what is the primary and what is the secondary. Most doctors only want to treat the secondary. They do not want to look at the primary cause of why people experience what they're experiencing, which is why people are on a cocktail of different medications out there in the world, because each thing is treating the symptoms or the side effects of the other thing. So in our office, what you can expect from us is to get to the root cause of the problem, eliminate that, so that way you can experience your greatest life and start living your life to an optimum potential. I always tell people the greatest health insurance you could ever get for yourself is staying healthy. It is the best investment you could ever make for your life, as this is the only life that will ever live. So by staying healthy and living it to the greatest, we're making such a great investment for the long term, as that's where most people go bankrupt, is due to medical expenses. Well, there's these different normals and there's different abnormals, and that's how we always want to know if the body's working at 100%. So for temperature, 98.6 degrees would be considered normal. And then there's different ways that they can check for eyesight. There's ways they can check for heart beating. There's blood pressure. There's air pressure on our tires. There's different baselines and different measurements and indicators that people can utilize in order to figure out if something's normal or if it's abnormal. Well, it's no different when we're looking at the spine. But there's a difference between all these things you see on here and when we're analyzing the spine. See, the brain and the spine control every cell, tissue, organ system. It controls your life. The spinal cord, the spine, and the bones around it, and the skull encase that important nervous system to make sure that there's no stress on it, and that way nothing can damage it to create problems. Well, with our spine and our brain, that's the only one we're going to get. When we look at these other things in front of us, these other different tools, whether it's the eyes, eventually we may go blind, right? But we're not going to die if we went blind. With the heart, there's people that have had heart transplants. There's been arterial walls, arteries and veins, and all these repairs and reconditioning things they've done for the heart now. High research in that. Then there's tires. Tires can easily be replaced. But when it comes to the brain and the spine, it's the only one we'll ever get. And it's so important that we take great care of it, because it controls every single part of our body. So, how do we know? How do we know if something's going on? Well, there's about 4 indicators in which we utilize to figure out what's normal and what's not normal when we're looking at the spine. And these are not related to age or genetics. Age and genetics are usually excuses that people make why they're not living their healthiest life. I have a lady who comes to our office. She's 98 years old. Her spine looks as about a 50-year-old spine. She's been getting chiropractic care since she was 20 years old. And 70 years ago, when she was getting chiropractic care, that was unheard of for people to do that. Now that's obviously become more popular, and most people are utilizing chiropractic care for their health. But to see how someone who took such great care of their spine and their nervous system, how healthy, how sharp they are, how there's very little arthritis going on throughout the spine. And it's amazing to watch that. In genetics, there's a lot of people who come to our office whose family members suffered with a lot of degenerative problems, yet were able to watch their children, their grandchildren grow up without having to live with that, based on them being proactive and living that life. And if we look at today's world, we're just very slouched over. We're a lot of computers, there's iPhones, there's iPads, there's this, that. Everything we're doing is in a very flexed, rounded posture. So what's happening is we're damaging a lot of that structural shift. And so what's happening and what happens to the body as we move forward is there's a loss of that normal cervical curve. If you remember from the x-rays, a normal curve in the neck should be a C-shaped curve, 40 degree. So if we ever look at the Hoover Dam, the Eiffel Tower, any bridges, all of these structural engineers have a 40-degree curve in there for support. And there's not coincidental why God gave us one in our neck. It's there for a reason, to be able to support the mecca, the brain, so that way the brain can send signals down the spine at 100%. What can happen though when we lose that curve, things can become damaged or degenerated in between the vertebrae. There's the cushioning in between the spine that can get damaged. Just like if I took a car and I put it out of alignment, well, the tires are going to wear out faster. I took a spine and I put it out of alignment, those disc spaces, they're going to wear out faster. And what's going to happen is the vertebrae will start to become damaged after that, and they'll start creating more bone, which will be your medical doctor would call arthritis, which arthritis, once again, is a secondary condition. The problem is not the arthritis. The problem is what caused the arthritis in the first place, which is improper biomechanics. And then eventually what will happen is there will be segmental immobility, meaning the spine cannot move. It is fused together, and this is when people start to get about 70, 80 years old, and once again they go back to blaming this on age and genetics. So common solutions that if you started noticing those things, what some people would do, first thing they would do is they would go to maybe their medical doctor, and the doctor would say, oh, just take some anti-inflammatories and muscle relaxers, treating the symptoms. All they're doing is they're masking their pain. They're getting rid of the pain, which will work. These things will work for the pain, but it's not correcting the problem. So these people feel like they're okay. Then they go back to working out, playing golf, hitting tennis balls, and what happens is they're actually damaging the problem even worse because they feel good and they think they're okay. Well, a year or two later, maybe they go on another round of anti-inflammatories and muscle relaxers. Year or two later, they get an epidural shot in the back to remove all the inflammation. And they keep going through these cycles until eventually they get surgery. And usually by the time they get one surgery, a few years later, they're going to get another one. The bottom picture on the right, that's my uncle. My uncle went through surgery when he was 24 years old and then had to get another surgery at 28 years old. He got in a fist fight with a professional boxer at 18, which is where all his spinal problems happened. But his whole life, all he ever did was just treat the symptoms with drugs and cortisone shots and epidurals and surgeries. And this is all he kept doing until he got to the point in his mid-30s where he couldn't deal with it anymore and he took his own life. And he did that because he couldn't deal with the pain anymore. And the problem was he does what every person in our society does, is they just treat the symptoms. And people do this in every area of their life, whatever it is. We're always just treating the symptoms. We're not living proactively and looking for the cause of the problems. And that's what we want to do, and that's what we want to be able to get to. So it goes back to how does one person get subluxated, which is a misalignment of the spine? Well, slips and falls, the birthing process, sports injuries, any car accidents over 8 miles per hour. If it's enough to create damage for metal, it's enough to create damage to the spine. Playing in the playgrounds when we were younger. There's a lot of things we do when we're younger that really start getting the problems created. And because our pain receptors are not fully developed, we don't truly feel anything. So we go about our life until we're maybe 20s or 30s, and then we start feeling something, but we tell our parent, it comes and goes, not too bad. Then eventually it starts to stay longer. Then eventually it starts to become radiating pain. And this is how the problems keep going on and progressing until they get worse. No one eats a double cheeseburger with bacon on top of it at 18 years old and says, oh, I think I felt an inflammatory response in my heart. Maybe I should stop eating these fatty foods. No, we don't know we have heart problems until we actually have heart disease. We don't know we have a problem in our spine until it's been too late. It's important and it's crucial that we live more proactive when we start thinking conceptually about the body and how it works. Because I've said this over and over, we only get one shot at it. I put this slide up here because it really indicates and shows us where health begins. From a sperm and egg coming together, that intelligence is what runs through us our entire life. If I were right now to climb a mountain, my red blood cells will go up. I don't have to think about it. My body does that because that's health working at its finest level. If I were to stand on an iceberg, my body will turn blue because all the blood knows to rush to my core to keep my organs very warm because it doesn't care so much about my appendages, my arms and my legs. It cares more about my heart and my lungs and my liver, and these important organs. That health runs through us every day, all day, and we don't even have to think about it. All we need to do is just keep it functioning at 100% through anti-inflammatory nutrition, to functional movements, through chiropractic care to keep a clear and healthy nervous system. It is important that that word health right there, you understand that health has nothing to do with how we feel, but all to do with how we function. Most people base their health on how they feel. It is one of the worst indicators. I lost both of my grandfathers to cancer. They did not find out they had it till stage 4. But they still went through stage 1 and 2 and 3, but they felt okay, so they were deemed as healthy. It is important and essential that we understand that health is how we function. It is not how we feel. And the best investment, like I keep saying over and over, is taking care of ourselves and living a proactive life and not waiting for problems to happen before we do anything about it. So what are we going to do? What is a corrective chiropractic approach to it? So we utilize a lot of those methods. Now we always start in our office with a pre-adjustment warm-up, and it's an essential that you take those seriously. For the wobble chair or the disc hydration chair, for those of you that don't have a whole lot of damage in the discs, you only need about 1 to 2 minutes. But for those people who have damage in the disc spaces in the low back, you need between 3 to 5 minutes of the warm-up. And making sure they're going from side to side and front to back and getting semicircles in pretty deep. Then we have the curve restoration unit now. For those that are basic, just start doing it without a vibrating platform. And you want to make sure you're arching that neck back and bringing that curve in there. For those of you who are advanced, you can get on the vibrating platforms, and that'll start firing massive proprioception or receptors through your spine, so it'll help to increase that curve. It also helps with bone density. It also helps with arthritic. It also helps with people who helping with like neurological function as well. Then you'll get a specific chiropractic adjustment based on what your body needs. And then following that, it's essential to lie on the spinal stabilizer tables for about 7 minutes to relax and calm down the nervous system. Instead of just getting adjusted, jumping in your car and losing everything we just did, it's essential to lie on there. And once you become advanced, you can start using the molding pillow to mold that spine back to a normal state. As time goes on, you're going to be getting home care instructions. What will happen is every 12 visits, we're going to reassess your body to see how you're improving. That'll include, postural reevaluations, nervous system scans, muscle scans, blood pressure scans, spirometers, which detects your lung capacity to see how much better you're breathing now based on a healthier nervous system. And those will happen every 12 visits, and we'll start giving you things you can do at home to complement the care in the office. It's important as well that you stick to the care plan. There's a reason we designed it the way we did. There's a reason why you may be coming in once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week or 4 times a week. There's a reason for that. It's just based on how long the problem has been there and what it's going to need to take to get better. All the stuff in the office that we recommend doing is essential to be proactive with that. If you're going to miss a visit, it's important to tell one of us so that way you can make that visit up the week before or the week after you're going to be gone. And if you're going on vacation, please let us know so we can work with you to maybe give you some things you can do while you're on vacation so you don't lose any of the progress. Some of the expectations you can have in the beginning of care is knowing that your body may be a little bit tight or sore based on it's very new for you. If I were to go out right now and I have not run in 5 years and I go try and run 12 miles, my legs are going to be super sore. Well, if you've done nothing for your spine your whole life and you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, that's a lot of time for not doing anything and then trying to start doing corrective care work. So you can notice some discomfort early in the beginning. Some people notice it, some people don't. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just like working out for the first time. And then the recommendations you'll keep getting as time goes on, and please don't hesitate to always ask us questions so we can get you the best results possible. After we finish your corrective care plan, people always ask us this question, what's next? We have what's called protection plans, where the goal is we don't need to see you as much, but just like many of you have a protection plan with your dentist, where you go in infrequently to get your teeth checked, we would do the same thing with you based on what you need, so that way, if you're going to live in this society where you're hunched over and you're traveling a lot and you're in front of computers a lot and you're on your cell phones a lot, you're sleeping improperly, we want to make sure that you don't lose what we've corrected. It would be like going on a Paleolithic or some anti-inflammatory diet, getting super healthy, and then being like, great, now I'm super healthy. Let me go start eating pizza, donuts, and ho-hos again. It would not work. So what would happen is we'll talk to you about protection plans as time goes on. But what I want to do is show you a couple x-rays so you can see what to expect from our office. Here's a pre on the left and there's a post on the right. And you can start to see some of the structural shifts in the person as time went on about 6 months later down the road. This is another client of ours. This is about 9 months. The one on the left is pretty straight. And then the one on the right has a beautiful C curve going on in the body, as well as we've decreased the amount of forward head posture they have going on as well. It's going to be huge for this person, the quality of life that they're going to be able to experience. My favorite thing is what's called the miracle of the unknown. Had this person never taken care of their spinal health and their nervous system, what could have happened to them had they not done it? But now, the one on the right, now that they're living proactively, we have no clue the type of quality of life this person is going to be able to live now based on this. It's almost like people who take fish oil and whole food supplements. Well, a lot of us take it and we don't feel anything wrong with us, but we take it because we know it's the right thing to do. But we have no clue what could have happened to us had we not taken those things. So it's so important that we just live proactively and we live our greatest life. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask us in the office. As always, we look forward to caring for you and giving you the best results possible.